Hello and welcome to the Strong, Healthy, Happy podcast. My name is Debra. This is the intro to a podcast recording that I did with my friend Kat, a fellow coach. I was a guest on her podcast and we had a conversation about the importance of health, fitness, well-being, and the influence it has on our kids. Now, Kat is a coach. Particularly of mums with young children. And although my kids are adults now, she talked to me about the impact and the influence I have had on my kids, and also how I managed my health and fitness when my kids were young. And I had to really go into the recesses of my memories because as your kids, like my youngest is nearly 18, so we're going back some years to when my kids were young. But it was a great conversation, and no matter the ages of your kids or any young children in your family, whether they're yours or a relative, it's a really great episode to listen to, and I hope you'll enjoy it. She's a lovely, lovely, lovely friend of mine, Kat, and you'll find out in this podcast, how we met. Now, what I've done is I've split the podcast into two shorter episodes. So this is part one. So you want to be listening to this before you then go on to part two in the following episode. As always, please like and subscribe, follow the show, whatever your listening platform is and whatever it is that you need to do. Please share this episode with any of your friends who would benefit. Share me in your WhatsApp groups, on your social media. Share the podcast link. You can listen to my podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and more recently, YouTube. So anyway, I hope you enjoy listening, and I catch up with you on part two.
Woo! First time ever having a guest, guys. Welcome to Second Wind by Kinetic with Cat. I have the coolest woman ever, my gym crush.
Hello.
Yeah, this is Debra.
Hello.
Debra, how did we meet? Let's talk about that. How did we bump into each other?
We met in the gym because you came up to me to talk to me. You had seen me in the gym.
Herbing on her.
And we've been friends ever since.
Yeah.
Which just shows you can make friends in the gym.
Definitely.
Good friends.
But also the reason I came up to you is because you stuck out like a sore thumb. I think Debra was lunging. And first, when I walked in, I just saw this back and I was like, that's not a man, that's a woman. As in, like, I was like, that's very sculpted. And then I was like, wait, she turned around and she wasn't in her 20s, but your figure looked like it. No?
Do I look in my 30s then?
Yeah, no, honestly, I was like, this woman looks after herself. I was like, I have to go up to her because respect. She looks after herself. I'm a massive cheerleader, especially when, I see good work and effort. And I was like, whatever comes out of this, I just want this woman to know.
Thank you. But do you know what's really important to take from that?
What?
Is how important it is for women to support women and credit women and not feel like you need to be in competition with women.
Yes.
As a result of you coming over to me, we've created a friendship.
I know.
And it's really nice that women, can be like that to each other.
Yeah.
I always smile at people in the gym.
You do. You're very friendly. But it's important because, I think that in this day and age, we compete a little bit too much. So it's really nice to have someone authentic, just saying hi for the sake of it, not wanting anything. Debra is a fellow coach. She's also an amazing coach. What is your specialty?
So I work with mostly women. Well, no, I work with all women, but mostly between 40 and 60. I'm 55 myself, and I'm 55.
I thought you were 50.
I'm 55, and I tend to attract women in a similar demographic, menopausal, but not necessarily so. I have younger, and I also have women in their 60s that are smashing it and crushing their goals.
Yeah.
And, I'm a strong believer that it's never too late. And women are incredible and they're stronger than they believe and more capable than they realize. And Yeah, I'm just very passionate about women of any age never giving up on themselves.
Love a big ambassador here, you know, as all the mamas are trying to get all strong. Yes, we are. Tell me about like an inspiring client that you had recently that you're like, oh my gosh. Obviously, you've been fit quite a bit in your life, but someone who has really stuck out and inspired you.
That's a hard question because I'm inspired by lots
Yeah.
of my clients for all different reasons. What I love is when a client starts, they have low self-confidence, low self-esteem, they've never been inside a gym, they've never lifted a weight, they don't know what protein is or what a healthy diet really looks like. And to see, you know, I've been coaching this particular client for what must be just over a year now.
Yeah.
Like, not only has she lost something like nearly 5 stone and continues to lose, and obviously it gets harder as you lose that initial weight, but she is in the gym, she is lifting weights, and she told me at her check-in this week, I did share it on my stories actually, she went to B&Q by herself and lugged 24 paving slabs on a trolley, off a trolley, in the car, out the car, 5 decking boards and 5 bags of sand. And
so cool.
How amazing, and how transferable building strength in the gym can transfer to life. Not only and that it's not just for aesthetics. You know, yes, we want to look good. Yes, we want to build muscle for health. But actually, she didn't need to rely on her husband. He just did it. But she would never have even contemplated doing that before.
Oh, what an amazing woman. Perfect. We're going on to our next subject because that transferable part is why I love health and wellness for us moms, because it makes things so much easier, right? I noticed there was last week I didn't do my run on Thursdays. Usually I do my run. And on that day, from 9 till about 7 till James comes back, I'm on my own with Kai. And to be honest, like, you're not going to have riveting conversations with a toddler. Yes, we're going to do whatever we want to do with them, but patience isn't going to be at your highest. And I just remember that day, I was snappy. I was snappy as fuck. And I just remember, I think I even started crying at one stage. And I had that chat with myself. I said, and it's hard. I'm going to tell you what I say to myself. Like, you stupid woman, you didn't do your run. I knew it was that. I knew it was that opportunity I had to make my day better. There was food in the fridge, things were sorted, but that really helped me, you know, with my patience. What are your little things that you love?
I prioritize my mental well-being first and foremost, and the things that benefit your mental well-being tend to be health and fitness related. And even if, you know, that means going for a walk, I will always, you know, take myself off. Now, I need to say that my kids are grown up. So for me, I'm at the stage of life where I don't have to. So my youngest is nearly 18. And then I have a 20-year-old and a 21-year-old. So I have adults, and I can do whatever I want without consideration for them being looked after, because they don't need looking after. The only thing I'm left doing as a parent now is, until my youngest, my daughter, passes her driving test, is I am driving her to and from work. She's also into the gym, so I'm driving her to and from the gym every 5 minutes, and it's the taxiing her around. Other than that, I'm, you know, and normal family responsibilities. It's a nice stage. It's taken a long time to get here, and I'm enjoying this stage. It's a different stage, just like every stage, but I will always support primarily my mental well-being and setting yourself up to have a good day. And I know what it's like to sometimes not be able to do what it is that you want to do. You do have to meet yourself with compassion, though. Because beating yourself up, it might feel like it helps in the short term, but actually it doesn't help in the long term. And sometimes, you know, life gets in the way, and sometimes we don't do what we say we're going to do. That's being human. But, you know, I do exercise. I enjoy running. I walk a lot.
Yeah.
And, you know, I recently lost my very, very beloved dog. And I used to think that he was the reason that I got out walking, but I have maintained my walking without him. As sad as that makes me feel, I'm doing it as my therapy.
Love.
And my well-being. And because movement, no matter what it is, Pilates, walking, gym, whatever it is that you choose to do, makes you feel good. And you become, I'm a better wife. I always used to say when my kids were young, I'm a much nicer wife, more patient wife. I'm less mean to my husband. I'm a better mum when I've looked after myself.
Yeah, 100%. Oh my gosh. I remember, funny, this Saturday, me and James went away and I said it to him. I said, I feel like recently we've become better people, more patient now that we're looking after ourselves more.
Yeah.
He's getting more runs, more cycles. I'm looking after myself much more than, you know, I did before. But it does go hand in hand and it really just makes you a better person.
Yeah, agree.
Tell me about what it was. So you got math. Sorry. What's the age gap between your first two? This was math.
I came to motherhood, maybe not at that time, bearing in mind my eldest he's going to be 22 this year. I didn't get married till I was 32, something like that. So I always felt like I was a latecomer to getting married.
Back in the
day, back in the olden days. It took me a while to find the right man. And I tried to get pregnant for quite some time, like straight away after we got married. We were crying because I wasn't, you know, my husband's younger as well, a couple of years younger, and I couldn't get pregnant. And it was at that time that through blood tests that it was discovered I had low thyroid function. And obviously my cycle was all over the place, which doesn't help when you're trying to get pregnant. And then I started, you know, I was medicated on thyroxine and then my cycle became a bit more regular. I eventually got pregnant. But I was and have always been, for my oldest child, the oldest mum in the class. And I'm still friends with my mum's group from when he was in reception or year one, and I'm the oldest mum. I've always been the oldest mum, and even for my other two kids, I'm the oldest mum in the group.
And the fittest.
Yeah, I'm the oldest mum. But what was the question? Sorry, I've forgotten what the question was.
About the age gap between the two.
Yeah, so I had my son. It took a while to get pregnant, and then after he was born, you know, a little bit of recovery time because I wasn't getting any younger and we knew we wanted more kids. We tried straight away thinking it would take a long time again. And actually it happened very quickly. And my two boys are 13 months apart. And just to give you like some
13 months, it's all that fitness.
Yeah, just to give you some understanding, when my eldest had his first birthday party, I was 8 months pregnant. Kind of puts it in perspective.
That's absolutely.
So it was tough being pregnant, heavily pregnant, and looking after a baby. And do you know what? I remember with the second pregnancy, I really struggled with fatigue. I hadn't experienced, like obviously with your first, it's your first. You don't have any other dependents, you know, children-wise anyway. And I do remember putting him to bed in his cot so I could go and lie down because that overwhelming fatigue, usually like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I just needed like a 30-minute power nap and then I would be fine. And then I'd get him up and be out, you know, he was in his playpen or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I'd get him up and out. But yeah, so my two boys are 13 months apart, and then it was more conservative for 3 years, and then the daughter came.
You smashed it. How did you love taking care of yourself? The first few years, obviously, with babies, it must be, yeah? Was there any kind of tips or things you did extra during those years and focused on to prioritize yourself?
Well, I think I was fortunate in the sense that I chose to go back to work and I worked part-time and my work was flexible. I did go in the office, but I did have the ability to work from home.
What did you do, sir?
I'd been in health and fitness since I was 18, working full-time. But when I had my first child, I think it was with my second, it became more challenging to work in the health and fitness industry, do shift work, be a mum, and it was all getting a bit too much. And so I had an opportunity opportunity with one of the members who offered me a marketing manager's role. And I'd been doing that because I'd been managing the health club, and I took it.
Was that less face to face?
It was less face to face. It was office based. You know, I'd be on the phone a lot and talking to people, managing the small sales team that was involved in the company. Different industry, nothing to do with fitness. It was quite refreshing. I learned a lot, and I did it for about 3 years and then missed the fitness industry and then went back, which is a whole different story. I keep forgetting what the question is. See, this is what happens in menopause.
The tools you loved.
Yes,
You
I was fortunate that I was able to go to a part-time job. And by going to work, which doesn't suit everyone, but for me, I needed to be not more than just a mum. That's not the right expression, because being a full-time mum is an amazing thing to be able to do. But for me personally, I needed to be myself outside of being a mum.
Not more than a mom, but not a mom.
No, not
just not a mom.
Yeah, just me.
Yeah, I 100% relate. I only realized when me and James and Kyle, you're in this new family, you want to do everything together. They used to always come to my runs, the park run with which I started. And the only time I'd get was that 30 minutes when I would do my 5K. And then I came back and I was with I was a mom again, and I was with Kai, and I was with James' mom. And I was like, I stopped enjoying going because I wasn't prioritizing my time. So now I go with two of the girls, and it's just that the 2 hour slot is meeting them, going for a run, going for a coffee, having a chit chat. I am not a mom. I'm not a mom, and that I love that time more than ever. I just decompress, and it's just not being a mom.
Yeah, I understand that.
So nice.
Yeah.
So good.
I used to go to work, like people sometimes at work, they have a picture of their husband on the desk, or their kids. I didn't want anything to do with my family at work. When I'm at work, I was just, my Debra at work doing my job. And I like that. And it was very important for me to have to be myself outside of being a mum, as well as a mum. And I found as well that on the days that I was being the full-time mum, I was a much better mum, because I knew that my time was less, because 4 of the 7 days of the week I would be with them. So when I was with them, I was really with them. And we did loads, really loads on those days. We didn't just stay home. We were doing everything. We did activities, and obviously 2 boys full of energy. We had to be, they were better out than in. It used to drive me mad being home.
You probably enjoyed it more because your cup was filled.
Yeah, definitely.
Much more, which is so important. One thing I want to talk about is, so we've got a lot of my clients are mostly all under 40. Yours are above, let's say
majority
of them. What would you say to someone in their just had a baby, never lifted weights, how that has helped you in different stages with your kids, even up until they're older now? Lifestyle, guys.
It's a great question. It's a really big question. And if I break it down, when I had my kids, it's really important and honest for me to say, we're going back, I was in my 30s, and in the fitness industry and the knowledge we have within the industry and what's available for you to learn online from podcasts like yours, from Instagram pages, and the content that we both put out there is really educational and informative. There wasn't Facebook, there wasn't Instagram. You didn't understand or learn things. I used to do now, which horrifies me, but at that time I didn't know any better. I'd be at Weight Watchers because I didn't know any better. And although I was in the fitness industry and working in the health and fitness industry, nutrition like we know it now, mainstream. People, you hear about protein. My day, that wasn't a word anyone heard. It was all Weight Watchers and Slimming World, and it still is, unfortunately, to some degree. And that's another conversation. That's another podcast on its own. I was exercising. I used to swim a lot. I've always I don't want to call myself a runner, I call myself a jogger. I've always run, jog, whatever, but I've always done it. I always used to joke to my husband that I'm running away from the kids.
Yeah. I always said that too.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
and and so much so I actually set up a running club when my kids were young, and I came away from the marketing job because I realized I missed health and fitness. And the mums at the school gate used to see me in my kit and go, "What are you doing today?" And a couple of mums wanted me to help them run a 5K, and I built a big women's running club that lasted for 14 years, a result of that conversation at the school gates. But I didn't actually discover strength training until I was in my mid-40s.
Wow. What was it that kind of made you get into it?
I was forced into it
Mm-hmm.
because I was struggling, because I was running so much, leading sessions multiple times a week, every week, not always running at the pace that felt right for me because I was supporting everybody. And it was a very, lots of mums would come to that group because that was the only thing they had outside of the home, and being a mum.
Running away from
Running away. And I had so many injuries and I would see physio all the time. She would treat me, patch me up.
So how long did you run for?
So my running club was for 14 years and it's just been over a year. A year will be coming up to a year and a half in June that I gave it up, which was the best decision. And it was it was phenomenal, but it was the right decision. But my physio said to me on one session that I went to her, she said, I'm not treating you anymore until you help yourself by doing strength training. And I still see her locally to where I live, and I still reference that conversation because of her, I was kind of forced into strength training. And it's really important to recognize that I can see myself in the gym asking an instructor to tell me what is a deadlift and can they show me a deadlift.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Obviously the machine's pretty self-explanatory, you can work them out just about, but I had no knowledge. And when I used to go into the gym, I'd do more cardio, burn calories. I just thought let's burn calories. I didn't know better. And then in my mid-40s I discovered strength training and then took things to the extreme.
I hope you enjoyed part 1 of my podcast with Kat. You can listen to part 2 in the next episode of my podcast, so do tune in and let me know what you think so far. And remember to like, subscribe, follow, and share this episode with your friends. I'll catch up with you on part 2.